Out of nowhere, Rob Goldstone, Agalarov's longtime gadfly publicist, writes in a new book, Trump leaned over to the younger Agalarov during their Las Vegas dinner and loudly proclaimed, "I'll reduce the fee for the pageant by $1 million if you tell me right now if you've slept with any of the contestants." Not to be outdone, Agalarov shot back, "Mr. Trump, I will add $5 million to the fee if you tell me right now if you've slept with any contestants." At that point, Goldstone informs us, Trump called off the bet. "I knew right then and there this was a match made in frat boy heaven," writes Goldstone in his self-published book, Pop Stars, Pageants and Presidents, How an Email Trumped My Life. The book, an advance copy of which was provided to Newspulse News, is out next week. As has been reported before, it was Goldstone who first came up with the idea of pitching Trump's Mississippi Universe executives with a plan to hold the 2013 pageant in Moscow with Aras Agalarov hosting it at his grand glittering showcase, Crocus City Hall, all as a way to boost Emin Agalarov's music career by arranging for him to be the event's star entertainment. And Goldstone figured out early on how to encourage Trump's enthusiasm for the project. "I told him how Russia loved him not just for his business skills but for his praise and admiration for President Putin," he writes. The same PR skills came into play 3 years later when Goldstone would write the now notorious email that would pique the interest of special counsel Robert Mueller's prosecutors and congressional investigators and make him, for a brief moment, a world-famous figure. It was on the morning of June 3, 2016, smack in the middle of the U.S. presidential election when, Goldstone writes, he got a very strange phone call from Emin in Moscow asking him to set up a meeting with the Trumps for a well-connected Russian attorney with some damaging information about questionable funding for the Democrats and Hillary Clinton. Well-connected. Connected to what? The power grid. Goldstone says he sarcastically replied. Emin, Goldstone insists, provided him with few other details, raising the PR man's suspicions. "You know, nothing good can come of this," he warned him. Still, he took it from there and followed orders. In a matter of minutes, he banged out on his iPhone the now infamous message to Donald Trump Jr., skillfully embroidering the sketchy information he had been given with provocative language intended to grab the attention of his target audience. "Good morning. Emin just called and asked me to contact you with something very interesting," he wrote. The Crown Prosecutor of Russia met with his father Aras this morning and in their meeting offered to provide the Trump campaign with some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia and would be very useful to your father. This is obviously very high-level and sensitive information but is part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump helped along by Aras and Emin. As Goldstone tells the story, he actually didn't know what he was talking about. The idea that the well-connected Russian lawyer had documents was not anything Agalarov had told him. He just figured that a presumably official Russian lawyer who wanted to make a presentation to the Trumps must have documents since documents and official went together like tea and scones. As for the Russian government's support for Trump, this was pure puffery and even a bit of flattery. Nobody had told him the Russian government was backing Trump, he writes, and he had no idea if it was actually true. He just inferred that was the case given Vladimir Putin's praise for Donald Trump. On this point, the U.S. intelligence community later concluded, he turned out to be 100% correct. Even the reference to the Crown Prosecutor was a bit of a mishmash, although one Goldstone is a bit sensitive about. Russia doesn't have a crown prosecutor. The country hasn't had a crown since Tsar Nicholas II was overthrown in 1917. Goldstone insists he knew this. Most accounts until now have assumed he was referring to Russia's Prosecutor General, Yurichayka, a very high-ranging and feared figure in the Kremlin. But this isn't true either, Goldstone says. He knew nothing of Chayka or his actual title. He just used a British phrase, "The United Kingdom does have crown prosecutors," to dress up the importance of that well-connected lawyer in order to get the meeting he was told to set up. The lawyer was Natalia Veselitskaya, a name that meant nothing to him then but would later make waves when the meeting became public. At that point, I was so intent on getting a response from Don Jr. that, honestly, I would have told him I was bringing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to the meeting if I thought it would get his immediate attention, he writes. How credible is Goldstone's account? It's hard to say for sure, though it's worth noting that Goldstone no longer works for Agalarov and doesn't seem to have any strong ongoing allegiance to him, concluding in the end that the pop singer and his father threw him under the bus. And, as Goldstone notes, he has told essentially the same version of this story behind closed doors under oath to 3 congressional committees and before Mueller's grand jury. In any case, Goldstone's email was not, in and of itself, the most scandalous part of his exchange with the GOP candidate's son. It was Trump Jr.'s immediate response, "If it's what you say, I love it," especially later in the summer. Told of a foreign power's offer to help his father's campaign, Trump Jr. didn't call the FBI. He told Goldstone he wanted to hear more. There is clearly much here to be suspicious about. As congressional investigators have noted, in between 2 phone calls with Agalarov's number in Moscow on June 6, Trump Jr. had a 3 to 4 minute call with a blocked number raising questions about whether he was talking to his father. As Corey Lewandowski has testified, Trump's number at his residence in Trump Tower was blocked. The next day, Tuesday, June 7, Trump vowed he was about to give a major speech about the corrupt dealings of the Clintons, a talk that he said he would be very, very interesting and he would give probably Monday of the following week, after the meeting with the Russians was to take place. The speech was never delivered. Goldstone's account of the meeting itself reinforces what others in the Trump orbit have testified: it was a dud. A troop of Russians led by Veselitsky was ushered into a Trump Tower conference room to present their supposedly damning material to Trump Jr., campaign manager Paul Manafort and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. But Veselitsky quickly lost her audience, talking in a monotonous, droning voice about a couple of people in investor Bill Browder's hedge fund who had given to Democrats. Since this didn't implicate Clinton in any wrongdoing, the Trump camp immediately lost interest. Manafort, according to Goldstone, spent the whole time staring at his iPhone reading emails. A fidgety Kushner grew more irritated and agitated and finally interrupted the Russian to say he had no idea what point she was trying to make. Legitimate questions, and there are others that still linger about the Trump Tower meeting. What did Trump himself know about it? What was said between Trump Jr. and Emin Agalarov? And why did Kushner and Manafort feel compelled to attend, and what understandings might there have been after it was over?